2, 1.
Hello everyone, kumusta po mga kababayan? We're so glad to have you join us today. I'm Michael Davantes, the host of Pinoy Pa Rin on EC Television. Welcome po sa ating webinar on COVID-19. Although na-mention po namin na para ito sa Montreal Filipino Diaspora, lahat po ay welcome since lahat naman po tayo ay epektado nitong COVID-19. So since the start of the pandemic, we've learned a lot about COVID-19. So bakit kailangan po nating pag-usapan ito? Why do we need to give information? Well, nationally, daily case counts have been gradually rising with high infection rates persisting in many areas in Canada. Sa nakaraang 7-day period, just from November 19 to 25, an average of 2,608 new cases were reported, which is an increase of 9% compared to the previous week. At noong November 26 nga lang po, dito sa Quebec, merong report na more than 1,000 cases. So, ayan po. At ngayon nga, merong bagong variant. Ito ang Omicron na B11529. So, sa ngayon, hospitalization and critical care admission trends are still declining slowly, but if infection rates accelerate, itong trends could begin to rise again. So, paano tayo makakatulong to keep the infection down? We are a community and we are in this together. So, upang maging parte tayo ng solusyon, una ay tamang impormasyon ang kailangan at sa pagbibigay ng mga tamang impormasyon ay makakasama natin ang 2 registered nurses. Sila ay si Carla Bakiran, Site Coordinator for CHSLD, Donald Berman Jewish Elder Care for CIUS West Central Health Montreal, at si Fruan Tabamo, Site Coordinator for Henry Badet for CIUS West Central Health Montreal. Ayan po, so we will be starting off our webinar today by providing you with some background information on COVID-19, kagaya ng mga simptomas nito. How is it spread? Ano ba ang long COVID? At ano ba ang mga variants? At bakit sila nag-mutate? Pag-uusapan din natin ang iba't ibang mga COVID-19 vaccines, how they work, how they were developed and approved by Health Canada and the World Health Organization. And discuss side effects, safety concerns, at kung ano pa mang mga katanungan ang meron kayo. Finally, bibigyan namin kayo ng impormasyon about the resources available to you in Montreal, such as where to go for testing, how to get vaccinated, who is eligible for boosters, and how to get in touch with a healthcare professional if you do not have a family doctor. Nais naming interactive ang presentation na ito. So if you have any questions at any time, please enter them via chat, Q&A, or comments sa Facebook if you are watching us on Facebook Live. Maaari kayong magtanong in English or Tagalog and we can provide answers in both languages as well. So muli ay narito ang ating mga healthcare experts na sila Carla Bakiran at si Fruan Tabamo.
Hi, everybody. So I'm here with my colleague, Fruan Tabamo, and we were invited to speak to you all about our just information on COVID-19 and the vaccination process. We'll be sharing with you a short PowerPoint presentation where you'll be able to see the information that we're providing so that you can visually see the information and listen to, and we'll provide you the resources as well. Okay, so here is, I'll share my screen. Okay. So welcome to everyone for this webinar in terms of the information we're giving you for COVID-19 and vaccinations. So before I go into the points of discussion, I want to share some information while we were in the preparation for this webinar. Doing some research, I found that there are a couple of cases that I looked up regarding Filipinos and their personal situations in relation to COVID-19. And I find that in most cases, a lot of the similar themes came up, and it speaks to this type of our Filipino community and how important it is to protect ourselves, but not just for ourselves, but in terms of protecting others. So it's more about that community feeling, the feeling of not just doing for you, but doing for others. And in all the cases, everyone wanted to be well informed and so that they can make the good decisions. Okay, so today we'll be discussing COVID-19. We'll be discussing vaccinations, and then we'll have a chance to answer your questions, whatever you have, and we'll show you their resources. So a lot of you may know already, but what is COVID-19? It's pretty much a virus based called SRAS COVID-2. It's based on the previous virus we've had in the past, SARS. When the virus is contracted, you can have up to 14 days without any symptoms. And symptoms are very similar to any viral infections, like fever, mainly cough, shortness of breath, there's fatigue, and also loss of taste and smell. Some side effects are variable. They can become very severe. So during a certain point of the inoculation, you can have loss of breath, like dyspnea, trouble to breathe, and also side effects like pneumonia and death. So how is it spread? If we look at close contact, mainly the transmission is related to under 2-meter distance between people, and it's longer than 15 minutes at a time. Where there's a higher level of risk, it's when you're in a tighter space, when their ventilation is not very good, and then there's a lot of people for long periods of time. For now, there's no proof of airborne transmission. What they're saying in the research is that transmission can be caused by proximity and the variability of the droplets. So when you're breathing the particles that go from your mouth. Okay, so how do we prevent COVID-19? So what we can do is we can limit our contacts and physically distance when we're in contact with other people. We can respect hygiene and respiratory etiquette, which means wearing a mask. It's also hand hygiene in general, adequate ventilation. So in the rooms where you're at, most cases, if you're outside, it's good ventilation. In certain rooms, there's usually a maximum capacity where a number of occupants can be. Like I mentioned, masks, how we clean and disinfect the environment, and additional precautions may be added depending on the type of environment that you are. So for example, in our case, in hospital settings, we add extra cleaning mechanisms like high touch and everything on areas where people would touch often, and we do more frequent cleaning. So how is it diagnosed? So there are different ways that we can diagnose COVID-19. So these are the general lines: molecular test, antigen test, antibody test. So molecular tests are the common ones that you know, the PCR testing that was done with the nasal swabs that go very deep or shallow. And there are other types of antigen testing. So in general, the molecular test is the most accurate type of testing, where you would have a result within 24 to 48 hours. And pretty much it doesn't have many, it has more of a positive case, and it can detect very slight positive cases. Whereas antigen tests is, you can have positive results are usually accurate, but then they can be, you can occasionally have false positives, which would require you to have a PCR test in its place. So the most common way, the most accurate way for now is through the PCR testing. So what are variants? So variants form because when a virus goes into a host, it can be recopied and may create mutations in the virus. When there's many mutations that are similar, then they create a homogeneous group, which results in a new variant. So for example, the more common ones that we've seen lately are the Delta variant, now more recently the South African variant. So it changes our normal evolution of the virus if it's not under control. And from December 2020, it shows that there are about 4 variants around. So what is long COVID? So people who have had COVID can have symptoms that persist longer than 2 weeks time. So common symptoms can be prolonged shortness of breath, difficulty concentrating, which they call brain fog, fatigue, loss of smell for over months. And this average duration can be from 3 to 6 months. And then they've reported some cases that are longer, like almost up to 9 months. So how might COVID-19 evolve? Is it endemic? So pretty much because of the mutations, it can develop into something that's endemic. So what is endemic disease? It means that it's a disease that's constantly present in a certain population. And this can exist because the rates of vaccination vary in different countries. Like for example, we have the flu that comes every season, and it can be a different type of flu. It's not always the same type of flu every season. So based on that, then we would, because of mutations in that, we would require potentially boosters for COVID-19. So I'll lend it on now to my friend Juan. Oops.
Now we would like to talk about the different vaccines, but first I would like to talk about the objectives of a vaccine. Vaccines give immunity to a disease without us getting sick first. Vaccines are considered one of the greatest global health achievements and is estimated to save 2 to 3 million lives a year. It is usually given to protect ourselves and avoid the risks and complications of illnesses, to protect the people around us, to prevent the resurgence of vaccine-preventable infectious diseases. COVID-19 vaccines approved for use in Canada are free of charge. They are available to everyone. It is recommended to everyone in Canada 5 years of age and over, including those who are not citizens. This includes people who are pregnant or breastfeeding, people who have an autoimmune disease, autoimmune disorder, and are immunocompromised due to a disease or treatment. Now, how COVID-19 vaccines are approved. We have in Quebec 2 types of vaccines that are available to us: the mRNA vaccines and the vector vaccines. Now I would like to talk to you how each vaccine works. So the mRNA vaccine, the one that we have in Quebec, is the Pfizer-BioNTech and the Moderna Spikevax. mRNA stands for messenger ribonucleic acid. This is a new vaccine. It's a new type of vaccine. You don't use live virus to trigger an immune response. Instead, they teach your cells how to make a protein that will trigger an immune response. Once triggered, your body makes antibodies. These antibodies help you fight the infection if the real virus does enter your body in the future. Researchers have been studying and working with mRNA vaccines for quite some time. mRNA vaccines can be developed faster than traditional methods because they're made in a laboratory using materials that are easily available. Once developed, large-scale clinical trials are carried out to show that the vaccine is safe and effective. As with all vaccines, you gain protection from an mRNA vaccine without having to risk the serious consequences of getting sick from the virus. You cannot get COVID from the vaccine itself. mRNA is a molecule that provides cells with instructions for making proteins. The mRNA vaccine contains instruction for making the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein that Carla was talking about earlier. This protein is found on the surface of the virus that causes COVID-19. The mRNA molecule is essentially a recipe telling the cells of the body how to make the spike protein. After the protein piece is made, the cell breaks down the instructions and get rid of them. The mRNA never enters the cell central part. It never enters the nucleus of the cell, which is where our DNA, our genetic material, is found. Therefore, your DNA cannot be altered by the mRNA vaccine. The cell then displays the protein piece on its surface. Our immune system recognizes that protein doesn't belong there, and it begins building an immune response and making antibodies. Now, the next one that I would like to talk about is the viral vector-based vaccines. The two different vaccines, viral vector vaccines available in Quebec, are the AstraZeneca and the Johnson Johnson, otherwise known as Covishield. These types of vaccines use a harmless virus, in this case the adenovirus, as a delivery system. This vector is not the virus. It is not the virus that causes COVID-19. And you cannot get COVID-19 from the vaccine itself. Adenoviruses are viruses that cause the common cold. There are many different types, including those that causes cold in humans and those that infect other species. Scientists have been using these viruses for decades to deliver the instructions for proteins. Once injected into our body, the adenovirus in the vaccine produces the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. This protein doesn't make you sick. It does its job and then goes away. Through this process, your body can mount a strong immune response against the spike protein without exposing you to the virus that causes COVID-19. Now, what are the possible side effects of the COVID-19 vaccines? Side effects after vaccination are often part of the body's response to a vaccine. Next slide, Carla.
You see it?
Okay.
Yes,
Your body
sorry.
responds this way because our body is working very hard to build protection against the disease. Research and testing have shown the ingredients in the COVID vaccine to be safe, okay, because they leave the body shortly after the vaccination, like with all vaccines. COVID vaccines approved in Canada do not contain food allergens such as eggs, shellfish, gluten, or nuts. They also do not contain antibiotics. Severe allergic reactions are very, very rare, and it is usually happening after a person receives the vaccine. That is why we ask you stay for 15 minutes after getting your vaccine so we can monitor you. Mild to moderate reactions are very common, such as pain or redness at the injection site, mild fever, headache, tiredness, muscle aches. And these side effects can last from a few hours to a few days. Now, people are asking, are the COVID-19 vaccines safe given the rapid development? I can tell you the COVID-19 vaccines approved by Health Canada are safe. The vaccines were tested on a large number of people and have met all the requirements for approval. Vaccines are the most effective way to prevent the spread of the infectious disease, like I said earlier. But developing one can be very costly, long, and very complex. However, with a significant investment and collaboration at a global scale, developing a vaccine is possible in a much shorter period of time. All vaccines go through rigorous basic stages of development: the exploratory stage, the preclinical stage, and the clinical stage. In the exploratory stage, the scientists do basic laboratory research to find vaccines that could help us develop immunity to a disease before being exposed to it. On January 11, 2020, the genetic code of the virus that is causing COVID-19 was published. And this publication allowed scientists all over the world to start working on finding potential vaccines. With more than 150 vaccines in development worldwide, scientists are using current approaches and newer techniques aimed at delivering the virus DNA directly to cells. In the preclinical stage, the scientists use laboratory and animal studies to identify safety concerns before testing the vaccine in humans. It is also used to help find the safest dose. While many vaccine candidates do not progress beyond this point, successful ones move on to the clinical stage where they are first tested in humans. The first COVID-19 vaccine trial in humans started in March of 2020. Since then, tens of thousands of volunteers have been enrolled in clinical studies worldwide. Health Canada, responsible for regulating the use of vaccines in Canada, has authorized clinical trials for COVID-19 vaccines. Before approving a new vaccine, they look very, very closely at all the data, paying very close attention to its safety. Many vaccines will fail somewhere along this path if they are unsafe or do not work. It's normal, and this is the purpose of all the stages of development and clinical trials. Only those that are proven safe, effective, and of high quality will be approved for use in Canada. And that is the reason why we have those 4 vaccines. COVID-19 booster shots, like Carla was talking about. A COVID-19 messenger RNA vaccine booster dose is recommended. It is recommended for our residents in the CHSLDs, in the long-term care facilities, people living in private senior homes, people living in settings with high percentage of vulnerable adults, okay, people aged 80 and over in the 80 and over in the community, people aged 70 to 79 years old in the community may also receive a booster dose if they wish. Even though these individuals have adequate protection from 2 doses of COVID-19 vaccines, they are very likely to develop complications if they get infected with COVID-19. In addition, a slight increase in COVID-19 cases have been observed among these individuals. For these reasons, our experts recommend that these individuals receive a COVID-19 messenger RNA vaccine booster dose. New data show better protection with COVID-19 vaccine. A booster dose of the vaccine is also recommended for those who are vaccinated only with the AstraZeneca, Janssen, COVID Shield. They recommend an interval between the last COVID-19 vaccine dose and the booster dose around 6 months or more. Now, you may have questions about the vaccine for your children. Young people from 5 to 17 years of age are eligible for COVID-19 vaccination. They must have reached the age of 5 when the appointment is made. That is particular. Health Canada has authorized the Pfizer messenger RNA vaccine for this age group. A pediatric formulation is available from children aged 5 to 11. Getting a COVID vaccination can protect your child 5 years and older from getting COVID-19. It can also protect your child from severe disease, hospitalization, and developing long-term complications if they do get COVID-19. In the COVID-19 vaccine clinical trials that were conducted with thousands of children, they didn't find any serious safety concerns after vaccination, and side effects were mild and did not have any lasting effects. Some children will not have any side effects, and serious side effects are very rare. Unlike the mild effects that some may experience after vaccination, children who get infected with COVID-19 are at risk of getting very, very sick. As of October 21, according to CDC, children ages 5 to 11 years have experienced more than 8,300 COVID-19 related hospitalizations and nearly 100 deaths from COVID-19. In fact, COVID-19 ranks as one of the top 10 causes of death for children aged 5 to 11. Additionally, children can experience both short and long-term conditions after infection. Children who get infected with COVID-19 can also develop post-COVID conditions that can last for several weeks or longer and can develop serious complications. To conclude, I would like to share with you some data. So as of November 26, Michael had mentioned this at the beginning, in Quebec, okay, we have given the vaccines to 13,521,000, and it is around 80% of the population. Okay. During the last 7 days, 69,000 have been vaccinated for a daily average of around 10,000. So we have, as of November 26th, we have, 1,037 new cases, which is the most since May 2021. So we can see that there are new cases of COVID is really increasing. And that is why I'm very thankful that Carla and I were invited to participate in this, to really share you information that would help you make a very good decision, an informed decision to get yourself vaccinated. And we are here, and now we're ready to answer your questions after the last slide.
As you see here, these are the resources that we have for you that you can refer to later. There are different ones based on like the World Health Organization. So from a more international perspective to the federal perspective for information on Canada legislation and provincial, and now the Santé Montréal, which is just the community. If you have more information that you would like to know locally, you can always contact the 811, which is available for you to answer questions. And even the local pharmacies and other CLSCs will be able to answer questions for you.
Ayan po, so maraming salamat sa iyo, Carla and Juan, sa mga impormasyon na binigay ninyo. Very, very informative. So meron na tayong mga katanungan dito. And once again, you can ask questions in either Tagalog or English. And of course, we will answer it in Tagalog or English as well. So nakikita natin na meron isang katanungan dito ukol sa Pfizer. Ang Pfizer ba is really the best, or which brand is the safest?
It's really hard, to compare. Pag tatanungin natin Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, mahirap talaga. It's really comparing apples and oranges. So, and pag tayo naka-receive ng vaccine, it depends din kung paano nag-react yung ating katawan, paano nag-develop yung ating, paano natin na-develop yung immunity pagkatapos nating mabakunahan. So, it's really hard to say which one is the best. But in Quebec, sabi nga natin, sa nakita natin, Pfizer, Moderna, lahat ng ating mga vaccine na available are effective at 80 to 90%. Yeah. So, mahirap pong sagutin kung alin pong the best.
But it's not about being the best, right? The bottom line is that you get vaccinated. Kung ano ang available na vaccine, grab it. It's your best weapon. Okay? So, I actually nasagot mo na ito ukol sa mga bata. Kung safe ba ito? How about vaccine safety for children?
Well, a lot of the children have already had vaccinations. I mean, they grow up for the first 2 years of their lives receiving vaccines every 2 months. So it's not very much different. I think it's important to educate your kids and have them understand the importance of having a vaccination, to support them in that, to be there with them. And if you had your own vaccination, then you can say, well, I've had it and your father has it. And we do it to protect, the lolas and lolos and grandparents and everything, and also the people in our families that are sick and their friends, So I think that's one way to prepare your child to receive a vaccination, and accompanying them in the process. I think we have a lot of now, because it's open now for the children, and we have school systems that support the process. I'm sure that because they promote it so much, that they want to educate the kids as well on how to participate in this process. So, and the kids are smart. They know they'll do what their parents tell them for the most part. And as long as we give them the right information.
My follow-up lang, someone is saying that my child is scared of needles. How can I prepare them for a COVID-19 vaccine?
Well, we're all parents, and there are so many creative ways to encourage our children to get the vaccine. We can educate them, like Carla said. We have to give them the information. Some people use scare tactics, or they bribe them, etc. But depending on how much they understand, I think we can start by really educating them of the importance of getting the vaccine, okay, and and getting the needle is also part of that protection and part of that moral responsibility to protect the greater population.
Yeah, exactly.
Merong mga magulang, there are parents na bago ma-vaccinate ang kanilang mga anak, ay binibigyan muna nila ng Tylenol o ibuprofen. Is this necessary?
Well,
before vaccination?
You could. I mean, I know that when I had my first vaccination, I knew that there's a potential for fever, so it was important for me to protect before. But because the symptoms post-vaccination are so mild, it's up to the child. It's not necessary to do it.
Oh, yeah, raise no.
Ayan, so pagdating naman sa vaccination, there are people in Montreal infected who had been double vaccinated. Does that mean that the vaccines are ineffective?
Recording one.
It doesn't mean, no, it doesn't. What we've seen, I think, in our experience, what we've seen in terms of vaccination and COVID is that when people have COVID, even if they're double vaccinated, their symptoms are not as strong. We've had in the first wave, we've had the unfortunate experience of people who suffered, like during the first wave, and resulted in a lot of in death. So in this case, this time around, when people are more vaccinated, even though they acquire COVID after, their symptoms are very mild compared to what was experienced prior to vaccination.
Yeah, that's so true. There is a question from someone named Bulso who wants to ask, do you think that the COVID-19 vaccines will become mandatory for kids to attend school?
Hindi natin alam kung ano ang, so far, vaccine, hindi po siya mandatory. Okay? As you have heard, our Minister Legault tried to do something about that, tried especially with the healthcare workers. Hindi po siya ngayon mandatory. Pero hindi natin alam kung anong gusto niyang gawin. Pero I do not think na gagawin niyang mandatory.
Oh, actually, that was not a question of Bulso. Bulso wants to ask a question. So Bulso, what is your question?
Is it me? Hi.
Yes.
Okay. Gusto ko lang po malaman kasi ang mga healthcare professionals are the frontliners, okay? Gusto ko lang malaman din ano ang mga sentimiento ng mga unvaccinated professionals, no? How come they are on the front line and we are the people who are more innocent and we want to go through these things, sila pala ay unvaccinated. Can you explain to us ano ang mga sentiments nila, why they could not vaccinate themselves for this?
Iba-iba po yung mga reasons ng mga tao, especially mga healthcare workers, kung bakit hindi pa po sila nagpapa-vaccine. Some are very personal, okay, and some are for medical reasons. Meron po silang note from their doctors that they cannot take the vaccine. Okay, madami po silang mga iba't ibang reason, and we respect that. But for us dito sa in charge of centers, people who did not get adequately vaccinated, okay, we require them to go for regular testing. Mayroon pong decree na hindi po sila pwedeng magtrabaho pag hindi po sila pupunta sa testing.
Yeah.
Okay, at least 3 times a week po. And we monitor that very, very closely. So if they fail to go for a testing, so if the requirement is 3 tests a week and they only went for once, then that would be a violation of the decree. Therefore, mayroon pong sanction yan. So, yun po yung
Penalties
ginagawa
ba yun?
namin to ensure. Po?
May mga penalties ba yun sa mga unvaccinated staff?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly po. They will stay home unpaid.
And they don't benefit from any of the premiums that we provide our other employees, because we have
Okay.
incentives that we give our employees because of the dedication and the time that they put into work in the facility. So we recognize that.
Okay, that's the reason why ang health minister back out, sa mandate na kailangan pala lahat ng mga healthcare professionals kailangan kailangan may vaccine, at saka hindi ba sabi nila kailangan may 2 weeks sila na hindi babayaran, hindi ba? Yan ang narinig ko noon sa news, but he back out to that stand.
Opo.
Yeah, kasi magkakaroon nga rin din ng shortage ng staff. Unfortunately, sa ngayon ay kailangan talaga natin ng mga healthcare workers. And prior to the pandemic ay meron na ngang shortage, how much more sa ngayon. So, merong katanungan mula kay Ricky de la Sena. Hindi niya alam kung na-mention ba ito kanina na magbibigay ba ng booster dosage dito sa Quebec?
We don't have that information yet, unfortunately. They have been giving boosters in other provinces in the United States as well. But for now, they're trying to provide the 3rd doses, and they're trying to prioritize the children for vaccination. So we may have news of that soon.
Yeah. But for the elderly population, especially the ones that are housed in our long-term care facilities, they have already received their booster. Yeah. So like when we started with the vaccine, we started with the high-risk people first, and then we went to the mainstream and vaccinated the rest of the eligible people.
Merong question dito na what is the point of getting vaccinated if I can still get COVID?
Like Carla had said, those who had been vaccinated, according to what we have seen, they had been adequately vaccinated and yet contracted the virus, but it was not as bad as when we first seen for people who first contracted the virus. It was severe symptoms, but since they got the vaccine, they got vaccinated, they did contract the COVID-19, but with less severe symptoms. So that added an extra protection. And we know that vaccines are never 100% protection.
Yeah.
So merong bagong variant na na-identify sa South Africa. So someone is asking, I would like to know more information about Omicron.
Omicron,
this is very new, though. This is very new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is very new. This is very new. And our minister is would like to be very proactive with regards to the Omicron. Okay, and from what I have read, from what I've heard, Pfizer is already looking at it, how their vaccine is working with it, and probably we will have results within 2 weeks, but it's gonna take, around 100 days to really give us good data to see if the Pfizer mRNA vaccine is covering this new variant. So it's fairly new. Okay, so
Yes,
we will know more in the coming days and weeks.
Yes, but at the same time, it will not completely erase the effectiveness of the vaccine. So kahit na nga sabihin natin na it might escape immunity, mas malakas itong virus na ito, maging kumpiyansa pa rin tayo sa effectiveness ng ating vaccine.
Exactly.
Yes. So are we going to be required to boosters on a regular basis? At what point will we be considered fully vaccinated?
As I mentioned in my part of the presentation, I did talk about the possibility of COVID-19 being endemic, in which case then it may be something that would be regular, like the flu vaccine, where we have different strains and variants of flu that we would have. If we're at risk, then we would, or we're potentially to protect other people, then we would require to have the vaccination on a regular basis. So it's not necessarily for sure yet. However, it seems based on the type of mutations that are existing and the variants that it's a possibility.
And right now, if you have received 2 doses of the mRNA vaccine or the vector vaccine, you are considered adequately vaccinated.
Someone is asking, is COVID-19 already considered as endemic by the World Health Organization?
I didn't see that yet, but
Yeah.
there's no information yet. I think they're just going through the whole, making sure everybody is fully protected, and then we'll see from there how the virus evolves.
And this question is from Facebook, from Evelyn Kalugay. What is the difference between a booster dose and a 3rd dose COVID vaccine?
The same thing. So COVID, the 3rd dose is considered the booster dose.
Ayan, so maganda ito at nakikipag-interact ang ating mga kababayan at nabibigay ng mga katanungan sa ating mga health experts. So ipagpatuloy nyo po kung meron pa po kayong mga ibang mga katanungan o mga karagdagang impormasyon na nais ninyong malaman, ay nandito pa rin po sila upang magbigay ng tamang impormasyon, dahil alam naman po natin na maraming mga nagkakalat na mga maling impormasyon sa internet. So kung meron kayong mga myth o mga nabasa na hindi nyo alam na tama, ay nandito sila para i-clarify iyon. So Clara, let me ask you something. Meron ka bang myth na parang natawa ka when you heard about COVID-19 or about the vaccine?
What are myths that I've heard?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't know if I want to go there, but there's a lot of different types of myths, and I think one of the major ones was yikes, I don't even want to go there. So it's like a can of worms. Juan, you want to go there, Juan? It's so one of the main myths I've heard is about actually nanotechnology. So I don't know if we want to go there, but we're gonna go. We're going.
Yeah.
So people are worried about getting vaccinations because they're saying that there's nanotech that they're inserting into each vaccination. However, if we, as somebody who's actually pulled vaccines from the vial, sometimes you can get there. They tell you how many doses you can get, and sometimes you can have more. So if there was really that something that was being inserted into the body, it's not very accurate in terms of a measure, and it's very expensive. So I don't see why that would exist. So that's one of the bigger things.
Ayan, napakaraming mga nakakatawang mga myths na ganyan sa internet. So pagdating naman sa real concern about our health, narito may katanungan, can mRNA vaccines cause inflammation of the heart in children? Are there long-term side effects?
While rare, the following are the possible complications in children. Okay, symptoms such as trouble breathing, fatigue, weakness, difficulty falling or staying asleep, pneumonia, that too, heart problems. They are very, very rare. Like I said, we have not seen in the research about long-term effects. But
and can the vaccine hurt your fertility? Does it affect menstruation?
Again, like Juan said, I don't think we don't have enough research to to answer those questions. And right now, what it's showing is does not have that kind of impact on fertility and menstruation. But yeah, it's
Because
not available right.
in the UK, they had seen a change. I think this is coming from that. In the UK, they had seen a change in the menstrual cycle of 30,000 women. Okay, but they have found as well that it's only right after, and then after that, they reestablished their cycle. So it did affect right away, but then it normalized right after the first cycle, the immediate cycle. Okay, and those menstrual disorders, when they look at the difference between them, they didn't really see a big difference. So, but like I said, we continue to do research, and any of those reactions from vaccines are in order to maintain the safety. Health Canada continue to gather those information, get themselves informed, get those information from those who are already vaccinated. Tapos, tinitingnan nila kung paano pa nila magagawang safe even more ang ating mga vaccines. So, kung ano po nakuha nilang information, ibinibigay nila ito sa mga nagre-research para mas mapaganda pa natin itong ating vaccine. And we continue to monitor all these reactions and all these undesirable effects and to see what is causing it.
Since parang women issue itong napag-usapan natin, pwede mo bang i-explain uli kung safe ba ang vaccine sa pregnant women, or is it advisable for pregnant women to get vaccinated?
There was no contradictory indication for pregnant women to not receive the vaccination. So clearly it should be safe for women who are vaccinated. It's very few in terms of the side effects for vaccination. There's no indication, as Juan mentioned in his part of the presentation, that there's very minimal types of symptoms and side effects related to the vaccination, and there was nothing that was indicated for pregnant women.
Yeah. And alam ko po na madami po tayong mga katanungan. Okay. Mayroon pong number na binigay si Carla kanina, 811. Okay, yan po ay hindi 911, kundi 811. So dial,
The difference.
811. Okay, so we always say, if you're unsure, ask your doctor. Hindi naman po tayo lahat may doktor. Wala po tayo lahat doktor. So you call 811. Okay, mayroon pong sasagot doon. Itanong niyo po yung katanungan ninyo, and if they cannot answer you, they will refer you to a person who will be able to answer your question. Okay po? So, halimbawa, mas kinano po, hindi lang ito COVID, hindi lang po ito about vaccination, mas kinano po, bago ka pumunta sa isang clinic, bago ka pumunta sa emergency room, dahil lang po kayo ng 811, hindi 911, 811, and then sabihin nyo kung ano nararamdaman nyo, and then sasabihin niya po sa inyo kung dapat ba kayo pumunta sa clinic, dapat ba kayo pumunta sa emergency room, o lilipas din yan, bukas wala na yan. Kaya sasabihan kayo, pag talo lang ka lang konti, bukas okay ka na. Pero pag hindi ka okay, you can go to the ER or something like that. Okay po, so hindi po tayo lahat may doktor. So kung meron po tayong katanungan, o may allergy ako nito, paano ngayon kung mayroong laman yung vaccine na makakasakit sa akin? Hindi tayo sure, di ba? Sabi nyo. Okay, so dial ka ng 811, then they will help you determine kung mayroon bang danger ang vaccine para sa inyo, or ikabubuti po ninyo ang mag-receive ng vaccine.
Ayan, mahalaga yung impormasyon yan, Juan, na ibinigay mo, na merong number na matatawagan ng ating mga kababayan kung kailangan nila ng impormasyon. Siyempre, maraming hesitation ang ating mga kababayan o ibang tao pagdating sa pagkuha ng vaccine. Pero sa ngayon ay naandyan kayong dalawa. So sa inyo muna sila magtatanong. Marami tayong nakikita mga katanungan na nag-appear dito sa ating screen. ito, may tanong, what is the difference between a pediatric dose of vaccine versus an adult dose?
It's the same vaccine po. It's exactly the same vaccine. Kaya lang, ang ibinibigay po sa mga bata, the dose, it will be 3 times less. Okay po, it will be 3 times less. So less dosage lang, pero it's exactly the same vaccine.
Ito, narinig ko ito actually. Sabi, me and my child already have contracted COVID. Why should we still get fully vaccinated?
Okay, children who already had COVID-19 will only need a single dose of the pediatric vaccine, but can receive a second dose if they wish so. However, children with a weakened immune system will need the second dose even if they already had COVID-19. Okay?
Yes.
So, and we take it case by case basis kung talagang may problema.
Ito, how long the heightened immune response will last after the 2 vaccines and after the booster one?
Hard to say.
Immune response.
Yes.
Well,
Studies-
when we get vaccinated, the virus, the vaccine lasts for about 2 days in the body. And so that gives a time for the body to remember and to develop the antibodies to fight the actual vaccine. So depending on the memory, it's hard to tell. Like everybody has a different response. And the reason that we give boosters is because there are some populations where the vaccines are they don't last as long. So for example, the elderly population, immunocompromised people, they don't have the natural ability to regenerate in order to fight COVID. So in this case, then it's hard to say how long after. There's no how long. It really depends on how virulent the virus is that you acquire. And hopefully with any of the vaccines that you get, if you've had a third dose, then you won't have as high in terms of symptoms and reaction to the actual virus.
Ayan.
So, the studies is still ongoing pa yung mga studies natin, pero there's this magic number that they always say, protection lasts at least 6 months. Okay, pero it's still it's to really determine how long the protection lasts. We still have ongoing studies.
Yeah, exactly.
Merong gustong magtanong mula kay Joanne Flores. Hello, Joanne Flores. Ano po ba ang inyong katanungan? Nandiyan po ba kayo? Medyo, andito. Actually, she typed it. The father of my brother-in-law got positive in COVID just yesterday. He is fully vaccinated but still got COVID. Actually, there is no question. So I think this is pertaining to a breakthrough infection. Kung bakit na fully vaccinated ka pero you still got COVID?
Like we mentioned, it doesn't cover up to. It covers about a percentage, but then the response to vaccination, because of vaccination, the response to the viruses should be much less severe.
Yeah, I siguro pag hindi siya nabakunahan, siguro malala yung kanyang symptoms.
Symptoms,
and
yeah.
Exactly. So yung dalawang vaccine niya, it had given him added protection, and for that reason, hindi siguro malala yung kanyang symptom ngayon. Baka wala pa siyang symptom ngayon. Nga siya na-infect nga siya pero baka wala siyang symptom o kaya very, very mild yung kanyang symptom. I hope.
At kanina nga na-mention natin na recommended pa nga na mabakunahan ang isang pregnant woman. So here's a question from Louise Roseberry. What is the danger for the baby if a pregnant woman gets the COVID?
Have you seen any information on that?
Yeah.
Carla?
Yeah, so it actually, like, when the baby is born, they may have a higher risk of developing severe illnesses. So this is one of the reasons that uh, they recommend that pregnant women still get vaccinated, because of the risk of when if they acquire COVID, then the unborn child could suffer from other illnesses and when they grow up. So it could be born with problems. Not necessarily, yeah. So from that versus like older children.
Ayan. So, mas protektado ang unborn baby mo kung kukuha ka na if you get vaccinated, right?
Opo.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Yes. Ayan po. So, I hope na sagot namin ang inyong tanong. Sorry, nag-scroll ako dito at marami tayong mga question na nagsasulputan. Can our population here in Montreal acquire herd immunity if we have reached a certain percentage of vaccinations?
According to public health, if it's vaccination, like the number of people who are vaccinated and the number of acquired, like normally acquired if they had COVID before, should be about 80% for us to have herd immunity. But at this point, we don't have enough people that are vaccinated to reach that percent. And in the meantime, while we wait, then that's when the mutations develop and how we can acquire variants. So it's basically 80%.
Ayan po. So, meron ba kayong dalawang last na mensahe sa ating mga kababayan ukol sa ating discussion ngayong araw na ito? Your message.
Our message, my message would be vaccination is safe and vaccination is free, okay? And you can go to anywhere. There's a lot of drop-in clinics, okay, where you could have access to the vaccine, any vaccine that you want, okay, in the area. Okay, one is in the Carey Square and in Park X. You can also go to your pharmacy, okay, and different CLSCs. But for the vaccination of children, it has to be in the vaccination clinics. It will be in the schools, but it will not be in the pharmacies. So, yun lang po.
Yes. And my message for you guys is, if not for you, then for the people around you. So the importance of getting vaccinated as Filipino people, it's very important for us to think of our community, our families, everyone that we're in touch with. And I think that that's the first step to getting over this whole virus.
Great message. At I think meron tayong isang community video na ginawa ng ating mga organizers. At siya nga pala sila si Lisa Abramovich at si Sarah Coy. So saludo ako. Salute the two of you. By the way, they're not even Filipinos, but they're doing it for us. So thank you so much for the two of you, Lisa and Sarah. So are we going to play the community video that you guys have made?
Yes.
Charmaine Ante sent a message saying many thanks to the panelists and ACS for this very informative webinar.
Hi, kumusta na kayong lahat?
Get vaccinated so you can hang out with your friends. tayong lahat magpabakuna tayo.
This is the only way to beat this virus. Let's get vaccinated.
Bye!
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated.
Ayan po. Medyo parang familiar. Some of those people are very familiar to me and to us, right? So we are one community. At dapat as a community, we have to help each other. It's not the time to think about our personal interest. We have to think not just about ourselves, but as well as the health of others. Kung kaya't we always have to think about the measures, kung paano tayo magiging parte ng solusyon. Muli, gumamit ng well-fitted mask, follow hand hygiene, improve ventilation. Actually, dahil malamig na ang panahon and we have the tendency to stay indoors, and Dr. Tam said na ang virus actually can linger like aerosols. So kailangan natin na i-ventilate when we're in an enclosed space. At syempre, we have to avoid crowded places. At of course, get vaccinated. Ito talaga ang best weapon natin lahat. So muli, maraming salamat sa inyong lahat at I hope that you found the information we discussed to be useful, and we gratefully acknowledge to this webinar the support of the World Education Services Vaccine Equity Fund. Maraming salamat. Thank you so much. And thank you to our community partners and our panelists, Carla Bakiran and Juan Tabamo. You guys did an amazing job. Maraming salamat sa inyong serbisyo. Siyempre, hindi lang sa ngayon, the two of you are frontliners, you know. So saludo kami sa inyo, sa mga nurses na mga Pinoy. Ay naparami natin dito. Actually, hindi lang mga nurses, meron din mga orderlies, may mga sterilization attendants, may mga technicians, x-ray technologists. So napakaraming iba pa. Saludo talaga tayo sa ating mga kababayan na siguro kung wala tayo dito, ewan ko na lang kung anong mangyayari sa healthcare ng Canada. So malaki talaga ang contribution na ibibigay natin sa bansang ito, and for that we have to salute ourselves. And also I would like to thank our organizers, Lisa and Sarah. Maraming salamat. Oh, thank you so much. I keep on forgetting, but you know, the passion and the health that you are giving to us, we really appreciate it from the bottom of our heart. So thank you so much sa inyong lahat. And by the way, meron po tayong papremyo sa mga sumali sa ngayong araw na ito. I-click nyo po. We have a $100 gift certificate for a Boodle Fight from Pinoy Pansitan on Victoria Avenue. You can click the link being shown sa screen. Ayan. Masarap ang Boodle Fight dyan sa Pinoy Pansitan. If you haven't tried it, please do so. Actually, I've celebrated my birthday in that restaurant at napakasaya po. Pero syempre, social distancing pa rin dapat. Alam natin ang Boodle Fight, you know, we tend to like gather around using no utensils. So, pero sa ngayon, medyo may adjustment tayong gagawin. Merong nagsabi dito na thank you for your dedication as a Filipino working as one for the sake of our community. God bless you all. Wonderful. We can wrap it up. Great job. Mula naman ito kay Sarah at kay Lisa. So thank you so much everybody. Thank you sa inyong lahat.